Cineverb.
Hello and welcome to Cineverb, a podcast discussing films in and out of the cinema. My name is Anthony Renteria.
And I'm David.
And this week on episode 59, we are discussing the film Videodrome. And here's a quick synopsis. A programmer at a TV station that specializes in adult entertainment searches for the producers of a dangerous and bizarre broadcast. As always, we will begin with a spoiler-free review, and then after our ratings, we will go into a full spoiler discussion. Okay, so this is the first selection of your film slate that you have selected. We are recording this before we record our episode announcing this and kind of laying out why you chose these films and the reasons we are embarking on this journey through this series of very disturbing films that you have selected. But so I guess I just wanted to, before we actually talk about the movie, like why is this a movie that was important to you, and why did you choose to select it?
Well, obviously, the one reason is because Crimes of the Future is coming out, the new Cronenberg film. So I was like, all right. I chose, after talking to you, kind of the horror focus for my selections. And so this is pretty much my favorite. It is my favorite Cronenberg movie. And so I was like, all right, let's throw this up. Let's throw this up near the top and see what you think about it. Because I can't remember. Have you seen any Cronenberg stuff yet, or was this your first?
No. This was my first. Yeah.
All right. It's your first. It's always a special one. Yeah. So I was just super curious to talk to you about your experience of Videodrome and what you thought about it.
Yeah. So I guess one thing I wanted to ask you, when was the last time you saw this movie? Like, was it recent or has it been a while?
No, I feel like it's been a while, man. I don't know if it was in college or high school when I started watching movies. I think it was sometime I honestly don't remember the circumstances of me watching this, but it's a long time, like years and years ago, like at least 5 years ago, probably was when I last saw it. Yeah.
I guess actually I kind of want to hear your opinions of this film first. So like, did it maintain the quality that you remembered it with? And then also, like, how was this viewing for you?
Yeah, it was good. There's certain things about it, obviously the things that will always stick in your head about it, the classic Cronenberg body horror stuff. Once you see it, certain images from this movie will just stick in your head forever. And so all of that was the same that I remembered. And something unexpected that jumped out this time for me was the humor of it. I don't remember the movie being humorous, but it definitely is. A lot of it, I was like, man, David Cronenberg, he does humor, but he has a really funny sense of humor that he throws in an otherwise really dark, disorienting movie. So I didn't remember that part of it, but I really enjoyed it this time. On the negative side, I think I maybe was remembering more of a conclusion to the movie or more of a wrap up that was satisfying. And so this time there was just a little twinge of like, oh, that's how it ends. I forgot about that. But I still like it. It's not like I was super disappointed. I still really like the movie. And I think it's an important movie too. I think that's what probably throws it up in the ratings for me a little bit more, is that I think historically this movie is really important. And it's also weird how ahead of its time it was in its thinking and philosophy about technology and how it warps people. So I think it's really important for those reasons. And it's just my taste of movie. It's just, it has every, it really, I was reading today about how this was actually, his first draft of the screenplay was way more intense and violent and sexual and all of that. And he had to tone it way down when he actually started making the movie. And that's his method. He likes to, in the first draft, just throw down any of his insane ideas, just uncensored, unfiltered. And then once he starts making the movie, then it kind of runs up against the limits of his budget and ratings and all of that stuff and what he thinks the audience can handle. So yeah, I don't know. It just has it goes to the extremes, but not to, I don't know how to describe it. It doesn't go too ridiculous. It goes to about as far to the extremes as you can. It's still being like weirdly coherent. I don't know how to describe it, but it doesn't go over the rails. It doesn't jump the shark. I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah. It never spirals into like an insane hypnotic rage or anything like that. And that's what I was kind of expecting, like on this first watch. I was kind of expecting to go insane, but I think it's actually better how you're saying, it's almost like it's almost like a pinpoint prick. Like every time you see the weird stuff, it is very sharp and pointed and like deliberately used and executed in like fantastic ways. Because I was actually like really enjoying all the disgusting stuff. And I was like, like normally I don't like this in movies, but I think like in the movies that we've watched, there's always an issue of tone, or it's always excessive. And in this, always felt like this was a very like a precision cut of what he wanted to show. And that actually makes a lot of sense, that his scripts start, from the insane, and then he just boils down to his favorite parts, or the parts that he thinks resonates the most with the narrative. I do have, I guess, to get into my initial impression though. Okay, so I've had like a really tough week work-wise, so like I hadn't had time to watch it. So I was like, all right, I'll watch it last night. I was like, all right, I'll just watch it the night before. It'll be easy peasy. I got off early and I was like, well, let me clean some stuff around the apartment, do my chores. So, I should have watched this movie at like 5 p.m.
Okay.
But instead, it's 9 p.m. and I'm like, oh shit, I need to watch a Videodrome like right now. And as people know, I don't like horror. I don't like watching horror alone. And then I was like, well, maybe it won't be that bad. So at 9 p.m., I start watching, and it's a very short movie, like an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then just because I was so exhausted from work, I was sitting in my chair. The first 30 minutes of this film, I feel like, are like a perfect slow, and then the film grain. I mean, it was just, I felt so comfortable in like the first 30 minutes of this movie. Like it was just like pure ease. And I'm like, oh, I love this. Like all these shots are like lingering a little bit. It was giving me like Taxi Driver vibes, not anything in particular, but just like the setting. I think it's in like Canada or something, but for some reason,
Toronto.
Yeah, it just how everyone's dressed, the culture, like the man, he kind of gives me that weird Bickle kind of vibe.
Yeah, I can see that.
like on the fringes. Anyway,
sleazy guy. Yeah.
So this is what's so insane. As soon as this film, goes into some grotesqueness, and when that stuff started happening, I started like passing out. Like I was just like nodding off because I was just physically exhausted. And then, and I was like fighting, like I gotta stay up, I gotta finish this movie. And then, I mean, at some point, I guess I like went into this like weird sleep state, but I was also awake. And this is not a good movie to watch in that like weird subliminal space between conscious and unconscious. So like, at some point, I ended up giving up, like consciously, like I just got to go to bed. I'll watch it after work tomorrow, which is now today. And then I remember just all night, I just kept seeing the imagery of this movie in my like nightmares.
Oh my God, it permeated your dreams.
Yeah, and it was horrible, man. It was horrible. God. There's not to get into any spoilers, but there's a person who like kind of their body disintegrates. And for some reason, that was the one that really got me, and I just kept replaying that at night. So it was, I don't know, maybe it was the best way to experience this movie, but when I got off work today... Or is it
the best way to experience it? I don't know.
Yeah. But when I got off work today, I rewatched the whole ending just to get all the like narrative stuff, because like everything that was said went over my head, but the violence and the action, just was imprinted on me. So that's fun. But I guess my initial impressions of the actual film is I like it, but I'm starting to realize, like, with Fresh, I realized I don't like music videos in my movies.
Yep.
In Videodrome, I realized that I really need, like, an emotional attachment. And I think, like in all the technical stuff, this film is like a marvel. And then specifically the psychological, and then the metaphorical, and the, you know, the the metaphors of what the future is and what is currently happening to society with technology, with all kinds of, like, this film feels like insanely of its time, but also of the future in, like, this
Yeah.
weird way.
It's a good
Everything
way
they
to
were
put it.
saying, I was like, this is today. This is,
Yeah.
like, how does, like, like, there's a, well, I'll get into the specifics and the spoilers, but it was just so trippy seeing all that. So I think it's a fantastic movie if someone who just likes, like, ideas. Like, I can see
Hmm.
myself thinking about all the ideas in this film for the rest of my life. Like, it's that kind of grand kind of dissection of humanity and technology, and, like, the intersection of the two.
Hmm.
But I do think it doesn't have, like, an emotional draw for me. So it's,
Yeah.
like, weird. Like I feel like it's a masterpiece, but then I also feel like I didn't really have an emotional time. And just realizing, we talk about it in the Helen intro, like, I really like catharsis. And what was
Yes.
very striking to me was, like, I think this film, like, set up the groundwork for a lot of other films to do this kind of, like, genre of horror that's melting technology and, like, using metaphors and, psychology, and there's another word I keep trying to think of. It's like
I don't know.
philosophy.
Yeah.
Uh, and, like, melting all three of those together in this, like, weird hypnotic state. And I think Titan, like, I kept thinking about Titan all day today, like, trying
Mm.
to, like, assemble my thoughts for this movie. And I realized that, like, the reason I love Titan so much more than this film, even though I think this is a better made film in a lot of aspects, Titan, just, like, I immediately emotionally connected with that character of
Uh,
that film, because like, I wanted her to succeed. Where in this film, I mean, yeah, it was kind of like Taxi Driver. Like, I kind of hate
yes.
Travis Bickle. I
Right.
forgot the name of the guy in this. I think it's like Ren or something. Um,
Max. His name is Max Ren. Yeah.
yeah. Like, he's kind of a despicable character, and I'm
Yep.
realizing, like, I think this genre really works when you have a protagonist that maybe is more gray than just black and white. And I think
Yeah.
this character kind of, I don't know, like, I didn't grow any sympathy for him. So I
Gotcha.
think for that reason, like, emotionally, I didn't connect as much, but still, just subject wise, it is insane. And I guess I wanted to ask you just briefly, because I assume we'll get into it hugely in the spoilers, but, like, what did you think, or what do you think now of, like, all the philosophy stuff? Like, are you, like, into a lot of, like, philosophy and, like, know all the big names and stuff, or?
I don't know. I'm not like an
Okay.
expert or anything, but I mean, I know that uh, David Cronenberg is into a lot
Mhm.
of philosophy, and I mean, Marshall McLuhan is one that's
Mhm.
like very, or is Marshall McClellan? Yeah, that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
He's super influential on this movie, and he actually, I think I read that David Cronenberg was in a class of his in college, so
Wow.
he was his teacher for something, and so yeah, like that kind of stuff. How technology, the philosophy of like how technology is changing people, is very much like part of this movie. So I guess that's the biggest part. That's the main philosophy of this movie. I guess it's not super deep. I don't
Yeah.
think it's just the main thing of like, okay, technology is actually is transforming people, and how what humans are. And David Cronenberg is all about weird transformations of people. So that's kind
Yeah.
of the focus of this movie, is how does technology, how it's going to transform us. And it's just so weird watching, because the movie is just, it's the early 80s, and
Yeah.
the scary technology is like VHS tapes and cable TV, but it's like so much scary. Honestly, like I was just thinking about how they could make honestly, Cronenberg can make a remake of this movie at this point
Yeah.
about the
Yeah.
internet and modern
Oh my
technologies, and
god.
it would be just
Yeah.
as scary, if not scarier. And
It
he
would.
could
Yeah.
completely remake this movie, and it would work, and it would be a justifiable remake. I feel like, to where you could, yeah. I mean, but then I think this movie does a good enough job to where you can just, you can imagine. I mean, it's not hard to like you said, think about how this movie applies to our modern technology and how it changes people. So, yeah, I think it still holds up really well. Plus, I just
Yeah.
love. I guess one of my aesthetic things is I love this early 80s aesthetic where everything was analog. There's like
Oh
nothing
yeah.
digital. Everything is tangible and tactile.
Yeah.
And that really adds. You couldn't have a lot of the horror in this movie without
Hmm.
that. So I guess I'm contradicting myself to where I don't think a lot of it that you really couldn't do in a modern that you can do a modern remake of it, because a lot of it's the tactile, like the VHS, the chunky VHS tapes, and the
Yeah.
the,
Like.
the big TVs and knobs and wires, and the things like that. That kind of technology, for some reason,
Yeah.
is easier to make scary. Um,
So is Cronenberg like one of the like fathers of this kind of genre, or like do you even know
of
like who really
body,
started this kind of?
I mean, body horror. He's the guy for this kind of like body horror, where it's like
Yeah.
mixed with philosophy. I don't
Yeah.
know who else. I can't think of someone that like did it before him, like that mixture. So
Yeah.
yeah, I guess he would be the father of that specific genre, like philosophical
Yeah.
body horror.
And that's what I was thinking, like, cause so I was trying to listen to as many podcasts as I could because I almost felt overwhelmed, like thinking back about the movie, because I was like, oh, there is a lot of philosophy and like ideas and ideologies and predictions of the future and like humanity and stuff. And there was one podcast I found called "Show Me the Meaning." They do a wonderful review and discussion of this film as well, where they talk about that guy that you're speaking of and like a bunch of other philosophies, and like they're like debating between all three of them. It all went over my head, so I don't remember any. But if anyone's into that, check out their podcast because it was great. Um, but yeah, it's interesting because it made me realize like I feel like this movie is in like I read something about like the script was like like they didn't have a lot of it done like when they were starting to film or something,
Yeah.
or like there
Hmm.
was like, and it does feel like plot points, like each scene feels like a plot point
Hmm.
versus, and I guess
Hmm.
this goes back to like my emotional thing, like I just needed
Yeah.
more time to spend with the characters alone. Well, I'll save that for the spoilers, but the beginning I really love before things go off the rail, well, not off
I
the rails, but
Yeah, I totally accept your criticism of it, because it is,
okay.
I agree, and it's a good thing to point out, because it is, if it's definitely more on the cold ideas side of things, even though it's a
Yeah.
really fun movie in a lot of ways. Like the horror of it is fun, the special effects, the comedy,
Yeah.
but it is about,
Yeah.
like, it's all about sleazy people. Like the protagonist is a sleazy person. Everyone
Well,
involved is
well,
kind of messed up in different ways. So yeah, if definitely, if you're looking for that kind of thing, definitely doesn't have that. It doesn't have the emotional connection to specific
yeah.
characters. You
Yeah.
made me start looking. I'm looking down my list of selections now, because I'm like, oh, I wonder if any of these that I picked, Anthony is gonna if it's gonna have that in it.
I
Eraserhead,
I
I
think
think I'm predicting now. I think it might have enough of that connection. Even though
yeah.
Eraserhead's a very similar movie to this. David Lynch is another person that does this kind of thing, and technically, well, they were both at the same time doing it, because Eraserhead came out in 1977, I think. Yeah, and this came
Wow,
out
and
in
this is 83.
1983. So yeah,
Yeah.
they're both of that same genre. But then even The Exorcist, I think, has it, like that emotional. It's got the horror, it's got the
Yeah.
body horror, but it also has definitely, and it's got the philosophy, but it definitely has the emotional, I think, connection to the main priest character. But then there's others like The Shining, like Kubrick is one where I have you seen any Kubrick yet? I forgot if you've
Mm-mm.
seen any. Yeah, that's I'm already thinking you're probably going to have a similar opinion of Stanley Kubrick films, because it's
Oh,
about the ideas, it's about like the abstract,
mm,
but there is hardly any like emotional connection to characters. It's very like cold. He it's almost I don't know, it's almost like he didn't like the characters that he was making movies about. There
yeah.
was some director I read one time that said that exact thing, but I'm blanking on who it was. Like, he likes to make movies about characters that he doesn't like, but I'm blanking.
Oh,
Maybe someone will
s-
point that out, but
and that was
I don't.
specifically with like Stanley Kubrick. Well, I know he was like a what is the word for like an anti-humanist or whatever?
Oh
Like
yeah, God, I know the word you're trying to say, but I also don't know. Someone who hates people.
yeah,
Yeah,
gosh, what is the word?
word. My God, misanthrope.
Yeah, misanthrope. I know he was known to be a hugely misanthropic person and like always
Yeah.
looking for the despair and or like the disgust in humanity or like the failures of humanity.
What's
Um,
weird is that, like, I was reading that it seems like David Cronenberg is the opposite. Like, all of his transformations, like, he really seems to care about humans in general. And I read some quote where he seems to feel like the transformations of his characters in movies are always positive, like they're for the positive, which I didn't get from this movie necessarily, but maybe his other movies. I don't know, but he's into that, like human evolution and where it's going next and how it can maybe be used, how we can transform ourselves for the positive. Which it
yeah.
sounds like Crimes of the Future is focused on that, maybe, but we'll see.
Oh yeah. Well, you had brought up the sleaziness, so I was gonna hit some of the technical stuff before we get into the spoilers. What did you
Yeah.
think about like the two? Well, I mean the multiple performances, but specifically like the lead and then the one of the lead women. I don't have their names pulled up, or the actors or actresses, but
Yeah.
what did you think about their
It's
performances?
Oh, I really liked, yeah, James Woods is the
Hmm.
main character, Max. I was trying to look and see because he's one of those faces I feel like I've seen in a bunch of other movies, but I can't remember any off the top of my head. But
Yeah.
this one, I can't think of another one where he's like the lead character. But I really liked him because he's funny for some reason. He's really hilarious as like this sleazy guy that's very focused
Yeah.
just on, he's all about making money, what's going to work, and he doesn't really care about the morality of what he's doing. And yeah, I liked him as this character. And then the
Yeah.
other lady, Debbie Harry, is her
Hmm.
name, actress name. Uh, yeah, I think she did a good job as this weird. I mean, she's not in the movie a ton, but she
Yeah.
is. She
Yeah.
does a good job with what she had to do.
Yeah.
Really, really messed up character.
Yeah, she was giving me Mishima vibes, and I was like, "Ooh, I
Oh,
like this."
interesting.
Yeah, and then the Woods guy, I thought he did a great job because I was like constantly thinking like, how do you perform this kind of stuff? Like I was trying to put myself as the actor, like, all right, act like this thing is happen or this thing is coming out of your body, like
Yeah.
that just and I love how he did it in a very minimal way. There was a lot
Yeah.
of like blinks and
Uh huh.
almost like it was like a deer in headlights kind of shock that I don't
Uh huh.
normally see in horror films that I've seen so far. Normally it's a lot of screaming and just like melting dread where he was very like almost like he was like tripping, like someone who's like super
Mm-hmm.
stoned. They're almost reactionless, but their eyes are just snapping or blinking wildly. And I think he nailed a very nice little line between that to where I was like, oh, this feels really real, or like it feels nice. It fits with the vibe and the tone of the film. And then
Yeah.
I was gonna say the cinematography was like freaking breathtaking, and like I imagine they didn't have a huge budget, but there's some like beautiful like colors and lighting and just like it has like weird noir kind of vibes when you're in their apartments and in dark spaces. There's like moments where characters are entering and exiting lights like within the same frame and the same shot. They're repositioning themselves to hit different lights, and like I know the cinematographer probably had like like lights set up in a specific point. So when he moved to a different point, he would be casted in a whole different way. And then that also had like its own emotional context of the scenes. So like just the cinematography was really like breathtaking for me.
Yeah, I like that whole. I like movies in this era for some reason. The look of them. I don't know if it's just the cinematography or like the lighting or the film stock that they used, but it does. It just looks really good. I don't know the graininess of it, and yeah,
Yeah.
the lighting in this movie is really good. Just looking
It's
at like stills.
mhm.
Yeah,
And it's very like I think what was happening in the 80s and the 70s and the 90s, just from my opinion, is like even like with like I noticed it in this and like Taxi Driver, is like lighting is so like it's not realistic. Like you could like look at
yeah,
a like there's like a shot where he's watching the TV and he is glowing way more than any TV, even a modern day TV would light up a room. And I
mm,
think that's just like it's like a suspension of disbelief where I feel like a lot of more modern cinematographers they always try to light everything where back in the day I guess it was just because of the limitations of how many lights they probably had because of budgets or because
hmm,
of how big lights used to be like this has to be like before LED lights which you could just have anywhere and everywhere
right.
so like every light feels like a cannon but it's so cool seeing I don't know, just this the way he used the cinematographer's Mark Irwin, the way he used it in this film was very appealing to me. And I think like a lot of that probably happened in like the horror genre around this time period. It's like how
Mm,
in the I don't know if it was the golden age of cinema, but like noirs were like so important in a like lighting sense back in that
hmm,
time
yeah,
even though they were like the more subterranean kind of genre of films. Like I feel like horror
yeah.
in this time period, they were actually innovating with lighting and like breaking reality and like using lighting to like show an emotion or to show fear or anxiety or induce stress. And I think that
Hmm.
that's really awesome.
Yeah, I'm looking back at like screenshots of especially his apartment, the main character's apartment. I like how dark and
Yeah.
it's always really dark to where it just looks like the walls are like black or like so it's that is a really cool choice.
Yeah, and
Um,
I really like the score too. It wasn't like hugely amazing, but I did like
mhm.
how it was very consistent in this like weird droning kind of sounds.
Yeah, I think and
And then
this
of
guy, the guy who did the music, Howard Shore, he's done like every single Cronenberg film, I think. He's done
wow,
the music pretty much. So, yeah, he's done a lot.
wow, yeah,
Um,
yeah. Oh, and he did the Lord of the Rings. Jesus.
oh, he worked on that too. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And then I guess do you know who did the like special effects and stuff? Because I think that's like the huge
Yeah.
technical achievement of this
Okay.
film.
So, yeah. So that's like Rick Baker. I
Hmm.
knew about him, but I had to go back and look like at everything he's done. I mean, he's won 6 Academy Awards for his special effects.
Holy
Yeah.
snap.
He's probably one of the more famous special effects artists. But like an American Werewolf in London, I don't know if you've ever heard of that or like seen the
Oh
transformation
my
scene
god.
from
Yeah.
that
I'm
movie
looking
at
at his
least.
credits. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
like uh, Gremlins 2. I mean, I think this movie is like a lot of his. God, he did such a like he did so much in this movie. The special effects do so
Yeah.
much. Uh, Men in Black, even I don't know why I always remember, like he did the the weird character in Men in Black, the alien that's pretending to be a human, but it's just like an alien with
Uh,
human skin thrown over it, and
yeah.
it
And
looks
he's
really
like a
weird.
cockroach.
Yeah, he did the aliens for that, so that
Wow.
sticks in my head. Uh, Even the Michael Jackson's Thriller music video, he did the special effects makeup for that, and that music video went on to become like the most famous music video of all time. So
Wow.
yeah, he's been involved in a lot. But
That's
man, yeah,
awesome.
like you said, like it's kind of the special effects are used sparingly, but when they are in this movie, they're really impactful
Yeah.
because of his
Yeah.
work and the creativity that went behind making this stuff happen.
Yeah.
Which we can get into the specifics in the
Yeah. Yeah.
spoilers
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to dig into those very deeply because some of them I do not for the life of me understand how they did it. Like even
Yeah.
in today, like how do you do
Yeah.
that?
They're good. And it's just
Yeah.
man, it's just amazing like how they did it just how much work you have to imagine they put into it. And they had to actually think. It's weird. Like now it's, if like the director has an idea and he just throws it to a team of CGI artists and they can make anything happen. It's like not much, obviously it's
Yeah.
work, but like it's not really that much effort to make anything look like anything. Um,
Yeah.
but like these guys had to figure out how to actually do it in the real world, which is so insane. They just
Yeah.
got a list of like insane things they had to make happen, and they had to figure it out. Like that's so cool to me. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, man. So I think that's all I wanted to bring up in the non-spoiler section.
Yep.
Did you have anything non-spoiler you wanted to
I
bring
don't
up?
think so. No.
Okay. Okay, so my final overall statement, I think it's a hugely important film, just for the genre, I guess, that is like body horror and like tech horror, and if you're into big ideas and philosophy, I think this is like a nice starting point. Like it presents a lot of ideas and then you can dig around. Like I've noticed in all the podcasts I listen to, like everyone brings up this movie as like one of the original things that they saw that got them interested in like different philosophers and like tech ideas and like how it's either destroying or helping humanity, and like it's a nice like little, it's like a little dip into a pool of, you know, the chaos of the future. So it's a really, I think it's a nice film if anyone's into any of those things. But for me, because I just didn't feel an emotional connection, and I just wasn't connecting with the characters, or like I don't know, I just wasn't feeling that emotional tugging that I not like in my films. So I think I will give it a. Oh man, I think I'm gonna give it. It's a good movie, so I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10.
Okay. All right.
I was like, all day I was like, it's a 8. No, it's a 7. But because like in the technicals, it's like a 10 out of 10. Like everything in a technical way is
Mhm.
masterful, especially for its time. And then it still holds up. But I don't know. I just,
No,
and then
that's
it's weird because it almost like feels like it kind of drags, even though it's like probably the shortest movie we've ever watched
mm.
for Cineverm. But I don't know. I just needed some more emotion. So 7 out of 10
Yeah,
for me.
that's
What do
fair.
you give it?
I had it as an 8 out of 10 on my ratings, but I think rewatching it, I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. I'm bumping it up
Whoa.
because of its, like it still holds up. So I
Yeah.
was, and I noticed aspects of it like the comedy that I didn't notice the first time I watched it.
Yeah.
But it's not a 10 out of 10. Maybe for the same reasons as you. Maybe because I obviously I value that too, having an emotional connection to the
Yeah.
characters. So it doesn't have that catharsis like you're saying. So yeah, it's not a 10 out of 10. I don't have, but yeah, it's a great. I would recommend it to anyone who has not seen it and is
Yeah.
okay with weird sex violence stuff.
Yeah, and I
If you're
think
good with the subject matter, then you like kind of conspiracy stuff, weird psychological
yes.
conspiracy body horror stuff, then you will definitely like this.
And that's something like I don't even think it goes that deep into the, like I was like when the film, you know, is obviously about like smut and like sexual content, I was like, "Oh, this is going to go deep." But just because it's from the time, you know, I feel like they were limited in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
So I think even people who are like put off by the sexual stuff, I don't think it goes that hardcore to where you'd be put off by that,
I
per se.
guess, yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know, but maybe I'm wrong. All right. So the final question of this review has to be, is Videodrome canon? So I guess I want to throw it your way first. Would you recommend this as a canon selection?
Yeah,
Official?
I would say so. Yeah, I think it is canon, just for the body horror genre in general, which is an important genre, and for for David Cronenberg in general, because like I said, this is my favorite
Yeah.
of his movies. Um, yeah, this is canon in my eyes. Uh,
Okay.
what would you say?
Okay. Because I've been thinking about this for a solid, couple seconds here, uh, but yeah, I just keep thinking, like we for sure need a body horror cinema or cineverm canon pick. Like I feel like our canon, we have some big highlights of genre pieces and standout films, but I just can't help but think that I think Titan is a
What?
better. Yeah,
But
like
what?
that's just what keeps.
Mm, it,
Because I think what Titan does better than this film is that it actually has like an emotional character arc,
yeah,
and I think that's like, cause that's just a personal thing, but I think because that's a hard thing to nail, is an emotional arc within body horror, within tech horror, within the metaphorical stuff, and I think that film did that.
yeah,
And I don't
yeah.
really think this film really tried, but I
No,
do agree that this is a staple moment of the body horror genre, right? Like this inspired so many others.
yeah. That's
Huh.
that's where I give it precedent. Is like, I mean, Titan, however we pronounce it. Yeah, is
Mhm.
like definitely honorable mention in this category. But I would put this over. Also, we haven't, which is on my list of our future watch list. The Thing, I would also put that up there, and maybe you'll like that better because that has more of a narrative, maybe not character, but I mean it has characters. Um, but yeah, it's hard. It's hard to decide, but I would say I would include this in my canon for sure.
Yeah, see, I'm like looking at, huh. I don't know. I kind of want to say no.
Yeah, that's
Just
fine.
because the emotional thing. Okay. But I guess, well, we're about to record our well, this is coming out in the future. Jesus. Okay, so in the past we've
We're time
discussed
traveling.
this. Yeah, we've discussed our canon, but I think yeah, I think, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I have to say no.
All right.
I think I would have to vote for Titan, and I guess you wouldn't vote for Titan. So we're at a standstill, and we need Helen to break it.
Yeah, yeah.
So at some point, well, I know for sure we're gonna watch Titan with her. So I'm gonna have to try to convince her to watch this movie at some point and cast her vote and break
Sounds
the
good.
break the tie.
Yep, yep.
But for sure, body horror canon, this is at the very top. Anyways, that will conclude our review portion of Videodrome. So if you don't want to be spoiled, you can pause the podcast now. And while you do that, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, or comment on what you thought about the film or our takes on it. And you can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or email us at cineverm@yahoo.com. And then be sure to check out our snazzy website, cineverm.com, where we also have written reviews. And speaking of reviews, be sure to check out my personal YouTube channel, A Lonely Critic, where I do shorter solo reviews. But now we will dig into the spoilers for Videodrome. I guess just to start out, I don't know. Do you want to hit this movie beat by beat, or
No, we can kind of go around. I
okay,
mean, do
okay,
you want to talk first about the overall plot, I guess, to do that kind of beat by beat thing? Just like what is the
yeah, yeah,
like how the plot
yeah,
kind of devolves?
yeah? Because
um,
I was initially very kind of confused on what was happening, but I think it's because I was delirious that first night, and then rewatching
yeah.
it now, I was like, okay, I see what's going on. So I guess, yeah. Do you want to lay it out because you have you're more
Yeah, cuz
familiar with it?
I also I did not remember hardly any of the plot watching it this like since the
Wow.
first time that I watched that. All most of the plot just kind of I totally forgot about. But I mean, I'm not really good at remembering details of movies anyway. But
Yeah. Same.
yeah, the plot I just completely forgot where it went. Which it does kind of get hazy at the end anyway, so it's hard to kind of put it all together at the very end. But I mean, basically, you got your sleazy guy running a cable channel
Hmm.
in Toronto, like a local cable channel. And I don't think it's all the description you read made it sound like it's an all porn channel, but I don't think it's, I think it's just a cable channel that like late at night they play like softcore stuff, kind of like an
Yeah.
HBO type thing. And
Yeah.
so you see him, meeting distributors and getting being bored with the options that he's seeing. Some of them which are really comical because of their cliches, like the Japanese porn that he sees, and then the Greek
Oh my God, yeah.
Adonis and whatever, people feeding each other grapes naked or whatever. He's like, yeah, I don't like any. This is all too soft.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's looking for something darker. He has this weird guy, which this is still confusing a little bit to me. Like, he has a friend that he hired who is in a room in the building where they have the TV station, but it's kind of like he's secret. He's secretly in this room searching the airwaves for, I guess, like channels from other countries or like illegal broadcasts where he can get ideas. I guess he's just looking for new material over the airwaves. And so that's what his friend does. And then his friend shows him the Videodrome broadcast, and then he records it on a tape. So the guy takes it home. He watches it. I don't think the first time he watches it, there's anything weird happens. I can't remember if the very first time.
No.
But
No.
yeah, then he goes on, which is this is a weird, hilarious scene in hindsight after the whole movie plays out. But like the radio or the TV show that he goes on to debate, to debate sex on TV, and you have like him for the pro, and then the con is this lady from, I guess she's a radio talk show host, but she's like a self-help talk show host, it seems like, where people are calling in, and she's kind of just, she's also sleazy in her own way when you see her do her talk show, because it's like she's just directing people to her hotline where I guess they just pay money for special advice or whatever. But like she acts like she's on the TV show to be against it, against sex on and gratuitous violence on TV, but then it's kind of like he charms her, the James Wood character just like charms her and like asks her out. And then they're a couple all of a sudden. And then when they get back to his apartment on their first date, she wants to watch the Videodrome. He's like really uncomfortable, this is where some of the humor starts coming in. Like it's funny that he's really uncomfortable. He's like, oh, I don't know. You don't want to watch that. And like, she puts it in, and then like, he's really uncomfortable. Like it'd be, it's like showing someone the porn you watch, like, but she like really she really likes it and like is into it. And he's like, what the heck? Like, he's kind of a freak. And then like he sees the cuts on her shoulder and he's like, what, you let someone cut you? Like, it was funny, their whole breaking the ice, realizing that she's a freak. And then they have freaky sex.
Which that's an interesting part, because it kind of like lays out that he is above all this, and he like says it a lot where he's like, I'm not a freak or a creep. I just do this to help the majority. I'd rather have it on the TV than the streets. So like, it's cool. Like, you reiterating that is like, he's like, I don't watch this for pleasure. This is for work. And then when he sees the cuts, he's almost like judgy, like what the fuck? You let someone cut you? Like, hell no, I'd never do that. And then,
that's true. Yeah, he does act kind of like above it, but like obviously he's a freak as well. And so they he likes watching that Videodrome. He's not turned off by it at all. So then they have freaky sex. Whatever. He pierces her ear. Oh, go ahead.
Speaking of that, I love the positioning of them, like when they're like nude laying against each other. Like, that's something I totally miss from like this time period of cinema, is like, because you didn't really show any graphic sex, or like it was always just like wide shots of nude bodies where every part's technically covered for the rating boards, and then they are like it's almost like they're just people snuggling nude to like, and then slow fades and like music and stuff. So, but in this film there was no slow fades or music. It was just like blunt two nude bodies, but it was like nicely composition. Like, it almost felt like an old like oil painting of like two nude portraits or something. But
it's tastefully framed, and Well,
Oh,
until yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
specifically when they cut to like the room where they're doing a lot of the Videodrome stuff, like
Yeah,
when they're in that space and there's just the
right.
red clay wall. Oh my god, that's
Yes.
like a beautiful shot.
Yeah, it zooms out and it's like they're in the room, but this is,
Hmm.
I guess it's supposed to be his fantasy. Yeah, as he's having sex, he's imagining he's there. And then what I noticed this time, a little detail, was like there's a gunshot in the background.
Oh,
And I was like, is that like right at the end of that scene, right at the end of that shot of them making love in the room? There's like a gunshot. And I'm like, oh man, that's like a contestant getting killed, you know? Because after later we learn that it's the violence is real that we're seeing.
oh yeah.
And but also I thought that's a funny. I wonder if that was like a little detail to a little metaphor for like orgasm or something. I wasn't paying close attention to like how
Oh,
that scene was going, but I thought that was like a cool little. If that was purposeful, that was also a
yeah.
cool little double entendre there. Um, but yeah, then you know she becomes even more clear that she's a freak because she wants him to put out cigarettes on her. Um,
Yeah.
and then I like that scene because it cuts right before he does it, so you don't know like if he did it or not because he was acting really uncomfortable with it. But we can infer that he was okay with the rest of it, so he probably did do it. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then so he really wants to track down the creators of this show that he's watching, the Videodrome, which is he doesn't think it's real. He thinks like why would they do that for real? Like it's cheaper. He's super jaded about he's it's all very cynical, his character, and he's just like yeah, like why would they do it for real? Like it'd be way cheaper and more practical just to fake it, because he's in it for the money and he just assumes everyone else is. And the lady says, it has something that you don't have though. It has a philosophy, and so that intrigues him more. And he gets his distributor lady to try to track down these people. Like she gives him a name, and somehow he gets to this homeless shelter, the cathode ray mission, which I thought is hilarious. All these puns and names are hilarious.
Wait,
Like
so
the
what is that a pun to?
the cathode ray tube is the tube that's inside televisions. Like that was like the first television is that's the technology is the cathode
Yeah.
ray tube. So, and then he's walking around the weird homeless shelter, which I thought was a cool little set piece or whatever. It's just all these weird cubicles, like a maze of cubicles where homeless people go and just watch TV. And like the only guy that shows up close that's like watching a TV is watching what I think it's like open heart surgery. He's just watching
Yeah.
footage of open heart surgery. And
As one does.
yeah, as one does. And so he's tracking down the guy who actually appeared on the TV show with him, the Oblivion, another hilarious name from this movie. What's the guy's first
Oh.
name? Brian
Oh,
Oblivion.
yeah. So speaking of that, that's one of the early parts in the film. Well, previous to this on the talk show when it shows his name, and I was like Brian Oblivion. I was like, that has to be a fake, made-up name. And then he acknowledges it, and he's
Yeah.
like, even my name is a manufactured thing, and in the future, everyone will have fake names. And I was like, holy shit, that's
Yep.
like this is like before usernames and like social
Yes.
media where everyone has these aliases. And I just thought that was just insanely I forgot the word, but it's like
Yes.
forward thinking.
Prescient.
Yeah, prescient. And then the podcast that I was listening to, I forgot what it was called. Uh, what is the meaning? They were talking about how that was like a theory. I don't know if it was the guy that you brought up or another philosopher, but he was saying like, once we enter this like digital world, I forgot what they called it before. It was a more basic term because they didn't know the internet was coming yet. So it was just more of like an interconnected electronic world because they thought it would still be with cables or something. But they were saying like once you enter that space, your identity becomes the identity there, and that your actual and they say this repeatedly in the film like the video is more real than your reality. And
Yes.
these philosophers, even back in the 70s and 80s and 60s or whatever, they were saying like once that once that moment happens and we, enter this new space, that new space will define our real space, because that space will have more importance, and that space will have more power over our reality, because the gains could essentially be infinite. Like the amount of serotonin you could get from this Videodrome is more than you would ever get from an actual physical person, and like that can be applied to any concept or idea, or like even this podcast is better than a real life conversation. So it's just like the further you like dig into that kind of idea, like it's kind of like weird and warping, and then it's like, oh yeah, like everything that I do is influenced by whatever technological presence. So it's just fascinating.
Yeah, the medium is the message was one of like Marshall McLuhan's like famous quotes, where like the actual medium that we're getting, whatever whatever the message is that's being delivered to us, the medium matters, so like television is a really weird technology if you think about it, because I guess people will just watch it without even thinking, like they'll just shut off their brain while they're watching it, and so that makes it easier for whatever message the message deliverers want to give us. It makes it easier for that to get into our brains subconsciously, and the way we engage with it. And that's kind of how this movie, that's the whole aim of the evil people in this movie. Oh
my God. And that's such a, like, the future of TV is now like YouTube and social media, and like how things autoplay. Like it's redefining the same concept of, this is a scheduled programming. Maybe it's not scheduled in the way TV was, but it's scheduled in the way that AI and the algorithms are predicting.
I mean, they're like, we don't even know how it's choosing to show us which videos it's showing us. It's like, when people aren't even choosing what they're watching exactly, anymore. So it is coming full circle in a weird way. Yeah. And then, I was going to point the quote from the movie, like, television is reality and reality is less than television. I like that. Yeah. I wrote that down because that was like what you were saying earlier. It does feel less.
Those are the like philosophical nuggets that, they are like in technicality very like bare and like not deep, but like it's like enough of a nugget to like get you down into the rabbit hole to like fully think out and research more. It's kind of like what the Matrix did for We Live in a Simulation. Like the movie doesn't really explore all the ideas of that. It's just the surface, but that surface is enough to get you in deeper. And I think this film just like really freaking does that. Like, and that's something like in my life, I'm constantly like trying to avoid anything where I don't make a choice. Like I haven't had a TV or like a cable since I was like 12 or 13, so I'm lucky that I never entered that spiral. But I remember like I went to a friend's house once, and they are like the kind of family that has a TV on, like it's just on all day, like even like no one's watching TV and it's on, and it's just like, it's this weird, like when you sit down on a couch and there's a TV playing, you like naturally, it's like a magnetic connection. And just thinking about when this film was made, and like thinking about how TV was still, I mean, I'm not too sure because I wasn't around in 1983, but I just know like from the beginnings, TV was a very family oriented, like this is your leisurely time or whatever. And to have this movie that's like so provocative and, against the grain of that, and criticizing it, and then also like within the narrative, I mean, that guy programming these dark things would be such a bigger deal back then than it is now, because it's like, this is the space for family, but then it's also like realizing like what all these things are just manipulating and brainwashing people. So I don't know. It's fucking crazy.
There's so many things like that in this movie. Like the way that I guess we'll like back to the kind of the plot is like, he's in Oblivion's office with his daughter and I thought Oblivion's office was a really cool set, because it's just full of like religious artifacts and old statues, and just it's full of culture and refinement and stuff, but it's like over the top, but it's kind of a cool set. And then the fact that, well, I don't know if it's here that she reveals, maybe it's later, but we could talk about it. Like he pre-records a bunch of videos of himself like before he dies, basically vlogs. He just records a bunch of vlogs and
He was the first
has them in a
vlogger.
library. And so when he appeared on the TV show, it was just one of his pre-recorded tapes that had his quotes on it, so you could just play it and no one would know. And I
Yeah.
thought, yeah, just that similarity to like vlogging. And then his daughter says, the monologue is his preferred mode of discourse. I thought that was a nice little quote there too, because that's, oh my God, how the internet and how YouTube specifically like made that a thing, where it's almost more comfortable sometimes for people to just talk to a camera. People are more willing to just talk to a camera than to talk face to face or in front of a crowd. Like people are way more willing if they're just staring at a camera to just reveal everything about their life and their emotions. And, it's kind of amazing, but, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
then, yeah, this is where he starts hallucinating. I thought the scene where his secretary comes over and then all of a sudden he just like slaps her
Oh
was kind
my
of funny.
God.
That was well edited, and it was real. Like I like his acting of where he was like shot. He realizes that he didn't actually do it, and he tries to play it off real quick. I thought all the acting was really good. It's better than I
Oh
remember.
yeah, and it played brilliantly because I felt like that was one of the few scenes that I felt very connected to his character, and I was like, oh, dude, what the fuck? And it felt like what the fuck because I was kind of worried because every time you revisit a film from the 80s, the 70s, or even earlier, it's always there's always going to be some unexpected things of the culture of that time period, whether it's racism or sexism or whatever other offensive thing. So I was like, oh shit, like this felt like an offensive thing, and then
Did
it
he
was an
actually
offensive
just-
thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then like when he acknowledges it and he's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I slapped you," and then she's like, "What?" And then I don't know, I was with the character and I was like, "No, you did, you slapped the shit out of her, dude. Like, what the fuck?" And then it was just, I don't know, that was just such a good, how you're saying, it was just the edit was so clean that even like when she left, I was like, "Damn!" Like it didn't feel like a hallucination because it was just
Yeah.
so immediate. But yeah, great moment.
Oh man, I just realized I skipped over something too. Is like the homeless shelter. It's like they're offering just for these homeless people to come there and watch free TV because it's like medicine. Like it's like medicine for homeless people. And it's to help, she says it's to help reintegrate them into society. The more they're connected to society, to the TV, like the more normal they'll be, which I thought was interesting.
And that's
They don't really
another-
go anywhere with that, but I thought it was an interesting little, or was, oh man, see, this is where I start losing the plot near the end, was like, because she was not connected to, I guess I'll just fast forward and like, okay, like the overall plot that he uncovers is that Oblivion had partners and they were all trying to create this technology that would transmit waves that would transform people somehow through the TV. But Oblivion realized that his partners were using it for nefarious purposes and that their goal was to transmit harmful rays that would cause like, brain tumors through the TV to destroy like people who would even be attracted to watching, the Videodrome kind of stuff, torture sex, snuff films. So that was their plot, and Oblivion like disagreed with that, and so they killed him. But then I'm kind of thinking like, what was the point of the homeless shelter still being open? Like his daughter still had the homeless shelter open for homeless people to come in and watch TV for free because she thought she was doing some kind of good. So I thought that was interesting. Like, I guess she thinks that that's actually good for people, that is a healthy thing. That TV is like medicine. I just thought that was an interesting little nugget to chew on.
Yeah, and then it's interesting because it's like implying, and then that's kind of like the society. Like now it's not really TV, but it's like the culture, the online culture, and like what is relevant. Like if you don't keep up with news, how do you know what's going on? If you don't keep up with X celebrity or what's happening in your friend group or family group, and like that's all living in a digital space. It's not living in your real space. Like you would never know any world event is happening in America if it's not happening exactly in the little circumference where you live. And that's like something I've been like really fascinated with, or like been thinking a lot about, because I think I like hit a really low point like early this year, like when we went on hiatus. Like I was
Hmm.
already just a depressed individual, and like just feeling, like being on Twitter and just like seeing all the negativity over and over and over again. And like I don't know, I haven't came to a conclusion of like what's better to, absorb all that or to just ignore it. And I'm like, just me ignoring it for the past couple months, like I don't know, like I know there's like a controversial like, well, if you don't do anything it won't change, but I'm starting to feel like I don't know, I'm just typically a despairing person and just a negative outlook. So I'm like, nothing I do will change enough. Like I will just live a despair, like a horrible life, wanting to change things, but I, in the grand scheme, don't have enough power. But I know that's probably like like you need to like vote, you need to do this, you need to do that. You need to be an active participant. But I don't know. Some people like I don't know. I feel like I'm in a group where like I'm so emotionally fragile that I would break, and I would not
Yeah.
harm anyone, but like there'd be harm to myself, like I would be an unoperable citizen. And I think there are people who are like, I don't want to use the word weak, but like I think there are people where it is overwhelming. Like it takes a very strong individual to absorb all this like danger and negativity and like
Yeah.
headlines and inflammatory things, to where honestly like I think you become like this Max Ren guy where you become desensitized, and you could become I mean, even violent or whatever, because it's just so much. Like there's like like our brains biologically were never meant to absorb this much chaos,
No,
And
definitely
I
not.
think I don't know. So I don't even know what the answer is. Like I don't even think anyone has the answer, because it's so insane now that I don't even know. But I don't know if you
Yeah,
have any
I
opinion
don't
on
think.
that.
Yeah, I don't think. Oh man, you made me think about the like. Yeah, I think there's a group of people that are. I think you're right. There's a group of people that are. Their reaction to it is more despair. There's a group of
Hmm.
people that their reaction to it is like, there's a certain group of people that makes them violence, and then there
Yeah.
does seem to be a group of people that they just maybe it makes them more stressed than they normally are, but they
Yeah.
can somehow absorb all of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe
Like if you can.
that's the next stage of of human evolution. Oh God, yeah. It's like survival of the
Um.
fittest with media, you know.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's and it's like if you, I guess if you can twist, God, like I don't know. I guess like
well,
there are people
oh God.
there are people that can twist like this whatever hatred for whatever thing that happens in the world that you have, they can twist it into positive action. But I think there are also people who twist it into negative action, and I think it's I don't know. I don't know what the solution is.
Yeah, like the recent, the recent shooter that went in the grocery store
Yeah.
in I forgot what state it was. Yeah, yeah, and shot a bunch of people. I was reading his manifesto online, and it's like it makes you realize, yeah, it's like this guy, this kid, he was only like how old was he? Like 18. Um, Without the internet, he would never have gotten to this point. Like there's no way that he could have absorbed this much information
Yeah.
to motivate him to do this kind of thing, because it's all the internet. Like that's his entire education process. It wasn't like his family or friends or anyone in his life that pushed him to this point. Like it's completely just everything that he learned online and just soaking
Yeah.
it all up, and how bad that can be. that's
Yeah,
that's
dude.
that's
It's
like the
like
lowest example.
the radicalization, and it can happen in like minimal ways too. Like I was noticing I was changing what I would do, even if it's like a positive thing. Like I remember when the Ukraine thing started, I was like donating money and like trying to like help in whatever way I can.
Hmm.
And then it got to a point where I was like, God, like I wish I could just go over there. Like I was like seriously thinking like, well, like, well, I have military experience. Like, I've been a medic. Like, I could be a medic. I could work at a hospital. Like, I don't even have to go to Ukraine. I could be like in Finland helping people. Or like, it was just like, and then I realized like that's kind of insane thought. Like, yeah, maybe it's a positive thing, but it's like, it's also I would never do that without being exposed to the situation. So
Yeah.
that's where it becomes like gray, where it's like, well, how much of this is my own choosing of a choice? Like how in this movie, it's portraying, the porn and the violence or whatever. And it's like, and then even with the character, when he's being told to kill certain people, it's like he doesn't really have a choice in that matter, because he's just operating on like whatever this program is creating, which is
Mm-hmm.
our reality, which is the algorithm. Like in a way, I was manipulated by the algorithm by seeing such distressing images to where I wanted to help,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's crazy, man.
It is crazy. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
And then like, I don't know, it's kind of a too big of a topic to talk about, but I guess I just want to
Yeah.
just briefly bring it up. Is like, I mean, because in this movie he says it repeatedly, where he's like, if people see the content, they won't want to do it on the street. And I guess we kind
Yeah.
of talked about it briefly, but what is your general opinion of that? Like, do you think that exposure to insanely violent, insanely pornographic things does twist the mind?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think so. I don't
Yeah.
think it makes people violent, but I
See,
think
yeah.
it's definitely unhealthy for people. It's
See,
definitely
I
like
think,
unhealthy for any brain to be
yeah,
constantly exposed to that. I mean, you hear and the internet, it's scary that it really is scary, like what is available on the internet to anyone. I mean, and exposed to certain things at certain, well, any age really, like you can really some things you can't unsee, or
yeah,
unhear. I've heard a lot of people saying that about certain recordings on the internet and videos. Like you can't unsee it. You can get PTSD from videos and things that you hear and watch. So
yeah,
like that's a
yeah.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's like, if you think about us as biological beings, and this is like kind of dug into the movie where, you see something, like our eyes don't know the difference
Right.
between a screen and
Yes.
reality. Like our
Right.
logic brain does, but I assume there's a stopgap. Like,
Yeah.
what our
Most of our
eyes is,
brain doesn't. Yeah, doesn't know.
yeah. So like that image has to hit, your brain and start stimulating neurons, and then your conscious could kick in and say, "Oh, this isn't real. This is on a screen." And that, like how you were saying, like the PTSD or whatever. Like I remember when I went through medical school, I've seen so many people dead and dying. Like there's not even a reason to count the number
Yeah.
of videos and pictures and just like grotesque images. And maybe that's why I kind of have like a apprehension of horror movies or whatever. But
Hmm.
like, yeah, like that stuff totally affected me in some way. Like it
Yeah.
had to. Like I am totally desensitized, or more sensitive to it. Like it goes either way. But I
Hmm.
think I think like to incite violence on someone, to like for that thing, like I think the answer is way more gray than people want. Like people want like, yeah, video games cause violence, but in reality, if you look at a spreadsheet with all the data, it's like there's like
Yeah.
1%. And I think the actual answer is there, it should be, instead of like, oh, if you watch violent pornography, you'll become a killer. It should more, the study should be more focused on who are the people that are predispositioned to become violent, because I think
Yeah.
that if you find out what that 1% of people who will do these crazy acts, that's the problem. It's not really the content. Like I think it's just because I mean, like you got to think of like all the mental illnesses that we probably even haven't discovered in our brains and that happen to humans. Like everything is like a spectrum of like disability within our mental capacity. So like if any of those pathways give out and then you expose yourself to this kind of stuff, then like, yeah, you like there's people like, psychopathy or sociopathy, like, like those kinds of people, or even other like mental illnesses. Like it's just like, I don't know, I just think the question's always positioned wrong. to where it's like the content, but it's actually like it's a person first that has to do the thing, and it's like I don't know.
It's always an interaction between, It's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like there's always nature versus nurture is, it's always both. It's always a mixture of both. And like does something cause someone to do something? It's always both. It's like the interaction of their particular brain chemistry and the trigger that they were exposed to. Yeah. So, Yep.
So I think like I would be in not in the violent camp, but I am in the camp where I will change my lifestyle because I see something alarming. Like I was seriously thinking about helping out overseas when I have really no business and no real like I have experience, but I would not be an asset in the way that my brain was like wanting to be. It was just stimulated to a point. So but
But
so like I think
it motivated you, to that point where you were actually considering it. Just based on images that you were getting over media and like information. It's kind of crazy. I guess like we could just jump to the special effects because we kind of covered the plot. He devolves the rest of the movie once you realize what they were trying to do. Like the bad guys are trying to target basically the lowest of society, the type of people who would actually watch violence, and they're just trying to kill them through the TV to cleanse the population.
Which I mean that is an interesting kind of idea. I wish they would have like dug into it or actually executed it, like made it go to the airwaves or something, and that would have been the ending. So I was kind of bummed about that. But I guess because they were only gonna play it to those people who wanted to watch the like smut, right? Like that was their like.
That's what it's right. Yeah, they were trying to like get rid of the weak people, like get rid of the rot in society. It's also a very '80s theme because like the '80s was like the moral majority like time, and the TV preachers were kind of becoming popular, and Ronald Reagan and evangelical Christianity and stuff. So I feel like that he was kind of trying to throw that kind of theme in the movie too. Like, we're just like, what if we just got rid of? What if they could figure out a way to target the worst of society? The secret Satanists. And just kill them through the TV. Wouldn't that be great? So that was kind of like the villain.
So one last thing about like the narrative, like how we were like kind of thinking, or you brought up, like how if this movie were to be remade, it'd be like your phone or social media or whatever. Like God, they would, if this thing was a reality, the Videodrome thing, and they were like trying to cleanse, it would be like what 70% of the population would just be gone because I feel like everyone
depends on what their threshold would be for like how smutty does it have to be for the people that are watching.
Pornhub is way worse than anything we saw in the Videodrome. So like what Pornhub has like 1 billion users a day, like that's just wiped off the earth.
Yes, it would be an apocalypse. It'd be like a Thanos snap. Of the population. God. Oh, but I was gonna say, I mean, you want to talk? We could just jump straight into the special effects, like those moments.
So the main one, I mean, this is the quintessential image from this movie that I even knew before watching it, was the TV sequence.
Yes,
and I mean, all of it is beautiful and amazing and just weird and trippy as hell. But specifically the screen, I have no idea how they made that screen do what it did.
I mean, I was trying to read. I pasted this. You can see this description of it, but I still don't quite understand it. But basically, it's like they got like a sheet of they had to experiment with a material that would be able to stretch, very far, but also have an image projected on it. So that's like a cool. So I think I read they took some kind of like dental dam kind of material, like a really stretchy material that they could paint white, and then they put it inside the frame of a TV. But then it's so hard to explain because it's like the inside of the TV they had to make like an airtight chamber so they could use air pumps to like inflate different parts of the TV, like the top of the TV when it's, when it's like inflating
bulging.
up. Yeah, when it's pulsing and he's caressing it, and it's got veins on it. So they had like a. It sounds like they basically came up with this thing where it's like an organ, like a keyboard, where each of the different keys would inject air into different parts of the TV that would make it move and pulse. And then they just rear projected. Well, they filmed the footage, of the lady and her close up of her face and lips. They filmed it on a TV. Like, I guess, they filmed her. They made a tape of it, put it in a TV, and then filmed the TV to give it that TV look. And then they rear projected that image into the back of this empty TV. And so the image was projected through plexiglass and then onto that rubber surface that would stretch. And so, yeah, it's insane. And then, it had to be something that he could like press his face into, to create that like iconic image of him. They wanted to make it like breast-like, like a big breast. So he's just pushing his face into it. So yeah, it's kind of insane how they had to go. I just imagine how many man hours went into just that one special effect.
Oh god. And it looked fantastic. Yeah, like all the veins and the air, like just how it bulged and moved.
Yeah.
God. I wonder why. I mean, it makes sense why they chose lips to be portrayed on the screen, but I wonder if that was their original choice or if they wanted another body part.
Oh, I don't know.
Because
maybe they did,
if I were to be able to redo it, I mean, I would obviously pick like a vagina, because like that imagery is so prevalent with him
in the
like
movie.
In his stomach. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, I was like, oh yeah, and then that would make it just extremely weird when he pressed his face into it.
Yeah. Oh man, it's a great shot. Oh, I read about a deleted scene, or they something they wanted to try, but they realized would basically be impossible. Was they wanted a shot, which sounds like it would have looked really good. It would have looked really cool, where like he's in the bathtub taking a bath, and they wanted to make it so that a TV would like rise out of the water in front of him and have with an image projected on it. And like, oh my god, it sounded so cool. But then they set it up and they were making it like the actual set and trying to figure out what kind of liquid they could use that wouldn't be conductive like to electricity, and how they figured out how to insulate the TV on the inside so that it wouldn't short out. And they had it all set up, but then they just figured out that it just wouldn't work. Like it wouldn't be practical to their budget, so they scrapped it.
Yeah.
Man, I can just imagine that shot in my head of like the TV like rising out of the water, just weirdly. Yeah. Oh man. But yeah, I mean everything else we get, the pulsing videotapes, I love those.
Yeah.
And how it gets like more fleshy, like the second time you see it, it's just flesh.
Gosh. Yeah.
And obviously the gun, the whole sequence of him. First, he's just watching TV, just scratching himself on the stomach, and then it kind of turns into a rash, and then he looks down, and then he's got a vagina in his stomach, and yeah, just the whole hallucination of like losing the gun in it, like he sticks the gun in there for some reason, which also is a very sexual like image, which is cool.
I immediately was like, of course this dude would shove something in his just newly formed vagina like that. That's just he just had to do that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You give a dude a vagina, he's just gonna shove something in it.
A gun, like the most phallic just image you can think of. And then he loses it in the vagina.
Yeah. It was giving me kind of like Taxi Driver vibes when he's playing Bickle's playing with his gun and stuff. It was giving me that kind of like weird, like, because it never really says why he got a gun out of nowhere. Like, I guess maybe he was worried about his hallucinations or something.
No, I noticed that this time. I was like, it was very random that he just all of a sudden got a gun and was unwrapping it. But whatever.
Yeah.
I think it's the same. I think it's the same kind of gun. He uses that Walther PPK, I think.
Oh yeah, gun. Like the small, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. That's interesting. But speaking, I did love how his chest or stomach vagina looked. Like it was just
Oh
so.
yeah.
Oh,
Oh
dude!
yeah.
Like all the prosthetics were. I don't know. Like they're obviously fake, and like I can like logically tell they're fake. But there's something subconsciously happening when you see like a prosthetic that looks this good, to where it feels. I don't know. It just has like some sort of feeling that makes you feel uncomfortable in a
Mm-hmm.
way like even the most realistic CGI just never does. Like it just for some reason never feels. And then there's also like just the achievement of it looking good. Like there's I
Yeah.
think in my brain that's happening simultaneously like wow, this is fucking it's the same thing with like Star Wars. Like every time there's like a puppeted alien, like it just feels better than every other alien even though the CGI alien probably has like a fucking teraflop of digital data. Like Baby Yoda looks better, like just
Yeah.
every time. Like I just don't know why, and you can tell it's a doll, but it's just there's just something about something being real. And then I don't know how they did that prosthetic exactly, but it was cool how he like stood up and they showed his whole abdomen, so it gave it that like oh shit, like how because you would
How did
imagine
they?
he
Yeah.
would have to look fatter, like where is that extra space going? So, and I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe he had to like suck in because I mean his hand went deep into that cavity. So,
Yeah. They did a really yeah. The editing in that scene really helps. The way they edited it makes it even more convincing. Uh,
yeah.
yeah. And
Which
then oh yeah.
speaking about the other time we see the cavities when he's speaking with the guy he hired like 2 years ago or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
it like chomps off his arm. What did you think about that? And then what happens to
Yeah.
him after?
That that was the most random. Yeah, that was the most random violence.
Yeah.
It doesn't really make sense. It's like
Yeah.
he puts his hand in, it bites off his hand, but it leaves basically like a grenade, I guess, on his hand, attached to his
Okay,
hand,
so
and
that's
he
it,
backs away, and then he just explodes.
okay. Because I was. So you think it was like an explosive that his
Yeah,
hand became? Okay, okay.
I
Because I
think
was totally
so.
confused. I thought it just
Yeah,
nibbled his hand off or something.
right. But then he just explodes. Yeah, the only thing I could think is like some kind of explosive. Uh,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't really make logical sense, but it was funny. And oh, and I love that. Like right after that, he explodes, like completely just destroys the wall behind him, and then I think the guy like runs out of the wall to run away. And there's like a mom and a little girl in the alleyway or in the street that saw it, and the girl's like running towards him and is like I want to see it, like, and the mom's like, no, 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 honey, no, no, like try to. But I love that little detail because it just adds to the theme. This is one of those. I think that's why I give it a high rating too. I love movies where every little detail just contributes to the theme or whatever that's trying to
Mm,
go for, and that little detail is nice. Of just
yeah.
even the kid. The kid is like us as humans are just drawn to violence naturally. Like we
Yeah.
want to see it, even if we know it's going to be disgusting or disturbing or whatever. Like we want to see it. That's part of humanity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was
Oh
a
my
nice touch.
gosh. And then the one that was super beautiful to me was the when his hand begins to morph with the like there was like wires like
Oh
slowly
yeah.
like and like that
Yeah.
one was very obviously fake, but it was amazing because I was thinking like how do you get the things to like prod out and the way it was like kind of like slithering out like little cables, and then I loved how they kept cutting from his reaction back to it, and every time they'd cut back it'd be more evolved or like
Mm-hmm.
the transformation was just getting worse and worse, and I just
Yeah.
love the adaptation of that prosthetic all the way to the end where it's just like this wet gooey, oh it's just gross.
Yeah. I did
uh,
like that whole transformation. Um,
yeah.
and then I guess there's two more main ones. There's like, I love the random when it gets really trippy, and you're like, what is going on? Or the hallucinations are just you don't really know. There's like the TV just shows up randomly in a scene, just on the floor, and then it starts stretching out with like a gun in a hand, like stretching out of the
Oh
TV
yeah.
towards him. and the screen has like veins in it, and I love that. Looking back at it, I'm like, man,
Yeah.
that's such a great detail. It has like red veins in the screen that are coming out, and then it shoots him, and then it shows the TV, and his chest is on the TV, and it's got bullet holes in it, and it's bleeding. Like I
Yep.
thought that's such a cool image. Um,
Yep.
and then, well, there's two others actually. Then there's when the villain, his name is, what's his first name? His name is, I wrote it down because it's Mr. Barry Convex.
Yeah.
Which I thought is hilarious because he literally,
Yeah.
I don't know if this is intentional, but yeah, like he literally becomes convex as he explodes.
Oh.
He's very convex. Like in the end, like he literally explodes. So that was
And then
cool.
also convex with like lenses, and because he
Oh,
works
that
at an
too.
eye shop. Yeah.
That too. Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Oh god.
Oh, and that special effect where it's almost like, to me it implied it was just showing his rottenness. Like that guy was already so corrupt and rotten himself that when he gets shot, it's just like he just explodes into like cancer. I think I read that they were trying to make it look like cancer. He was just full of cancer that was exploding out of him. So I thought that
Yeah,
was
that
really
one.
cool.
That one fucked me up. Like, especially specifically when his head started like caving in and like splitting in the middle, and then you
Yes.
just see those like what you're saying is like the cancerous little balls like shaking and stuff. I was like, God.
And like just his jaw, like I don't know, something splits open. It's just his open mouth with the teeth, and there's a tongue coming out of it that's moving.
Yeah.
Like, man, they did such a good job with the special effect. And then finally at the end, I just love the him shooting himself in the TV, but the TV explodes and like guts come out. It's
Yeah.
just bloody guts explode out of the TV. That was great. I love it.
And then he
Yeah.
repeats the same same exact,
Yes.
like even the camera repeats the same framing, the same like zoom in or and whatever to him shooting himself. That's
Yeah.
interesting. An
I
interesting loop.
Yeah, I feel like, to me, like my interpretation was just like he had to see it on the TV first before he could do it. And that's a very like, ooh, that's quite a point, because it is like,
It's
it's like we've got to see it. That's almost how we rehearse things. I mean, that is how the brain works a lot of times. Like we have to rehearse
the
things by
visualization.
visualizing it first before we do it. And so the TV's like showing us, showing us what to do. And then it
But-
kind of gives us the courage to do it. It's kind of the way like a school shooting happens, and it's like, it can cause there's usually a cluster of shootings that happen right after a really widespread school shooting, because it gives
Yeah.
people, it just kind of triggers that in people, that we're going to do it anyway, but it puts them over
And then
the edge.
It ties into the metaphor of the whole film, which is like this violence is the projected violence is causing real violence, or it's
Yeah.
causing the internal violence that's actualizing. Oh, that's interesting. And then there's like before he kills, I really like the part where he goes back to the TV station and he kills his two bosses. And I think before that, oh no, it's after. It's when he, yeah, it's after. But he's like standing by this guy. I don't know if he's like selling something or if there's a TV, and the TV is like most wanted man or whatever, and it's his face, and he's like, he says something like monkey see monkey do, on the TV, monkey see monkey do. So that's kind of like references back to this ending part where he watches himself on TV kill himself, and then he does the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I
But
didn't think about that.
the TV station, when he goes in there and just like shoots his two bosses, and then it's just so crazy how the secretary lady like rushes in, grabs him, and he's like not even really acting like he was shot, like he was surprised that she was getting him out of there. And then just that whole like descent, and like he will like descent like escaping that whole situation, and then like the way he like performed it was very like nice. The way he was like unsure of where to put his gun, like in his shirt, in his jacket, or in the jacket pocket, and like how he was like walking and stuff. And then of course like the movie doesn't really dig into like, is he not being chased? Like they have his photo, like how have they not found him?
Well, he goes and he hides out in the weird places.
Oh yeah,
I
that's true.
guess he's, the weird homeless shelter he goes to, and he's just, he's on the lam. But
Oh, one point that you have in this in your notes that I really loved was the whipping of the TV, and it
oh
has
yeah,
the lady. Oh my God, that's.
yes, he's like in the room, the Videodrome room, and he's whipping the TV, and the lady. But
But
yeah,
that
good
I
stuff.
love that sequence. It was still like the same kind of weird bulging TV, but the performance that he gives is just it's just so like it's like not funny, but it's just like so weirdly subversive because at first he's all like hesitant and the way he like is
Oh yeah,
grabbing the rope. Like I love performances where I can see what the performer is thinking and also like it like shows you kind of like what the person who's doing it is thinking. Like I don't know, like it reminded me of how like Adam Driver performed in that what was that movie? Annette, where he's on the stage pacing and the way he was grabbing his like microphone cable and like using it to almost like express his like internal anxieties or whatever.
yeah.
And like it was interesting, like every time he's hallucinating and doing something weird, it's almost like he's like hesitant to do the things, but then eventually he always just like loses himself in it. So like when he's first touching the TV, he's almost like I
Hmm.
don't want to touch this. This is weird. This is gross. And then he ends up shoving his face in it. And then here, he's grabbing the rope and just like kind of whipping, not really getting into it. And then as we zoom out and see or reveal to the older lady being the one whipped, not the younger lady, which is what
Yeah.
it started as, he's just like whipping the shit out of it. And you can tell just as an actor, he's like
Uh
giving it
huh.
his all.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's an interesting like character trait that I guess they built throughout the film is it's always hesitant and then it just keeps going until he won't stop.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which makes it relatable. Sort of.
Yeah.
He's not like a total psychopath or whatever. Yeah. He still feels that. Yeah. What he's doing is weird. But it draws him in.
The hallucinations, I guess one point that I was confused by because I just don't understand logically how it happens is so they say that the girl is a hallucination. The one that he first, befriends from that talk show and sleeps with and all that kind of stuff, that she had died in the original recording of the Videodrome. So I'm like kind of confused like so was there no one on that guest show, like she was never there and then like all his experiences with her were false or
I don't remember. They said that she was like an illusion. They were. I don't know. I can't remember
yeah.
honestly. I don't know if they're like kind of lying to him at that point, or I mean,
Oh
they
yeah,
do
yeah,
say
yeah.
that she died. There, well, isn't it the daughter of Oblivion, like reveals to him, like yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they killed her. They killed her on that show. So
Yeah.
she's just kind of like trying to motivate him to turn, and she does. Like then he just says like a robot, like whatever,
Yeah.
death to Videodrome, long live the new flesh.
Yeah.
Great quote.
so
But
so what is that
yeah,
in reference, like, well, not in reference to, but like what do you get from that? Because so we have the two like kind of factions here. We have the I forgot, the convex guy and then we have the Oblivion's daughter.
yeah.
Like what is the Oblivion side fighting for? Because like I know they like sent him back, like go kill them in Videodrome, but then they're also saying like accept your new body or the new flesh. Like I'm kind of confused. Like what do you think they are saying with that side
They're
or group?
just yeah, they're just like those what's that word for people? Oh my
Like
god,
anarchist or
there's a
something?
whole movement of these people that are very into oh my goodness, technology and like how it could enhance the human body, whole movement of the transhumanism. That's what it's called, transhumanism. There's like a
Ah,
whole group of people that are really into that, which it looks like Crimes of the Future is like focused on that. Like this group of people that are very positive about how the human body can be enhanced with technology or whatever. So I think that's kind of like the Oblivion side is saying that this is going to happen, this is inevitable, and that it's going to happen. So we should use it for good. Like that,
ah,
it could be a good way of human evolution. It could be a good step. But
okay.
the
Well,
other guys are using it for just pure like, let's kill the weak in society, you know. So they're just the positive side of it. Like, okay, this is going to happen. This is like the next step of human evolution. So we should figure out how to do good with it, I guess.
Yeah. Which, I mean, that's the like, we're already so past the state
Yeah,
of turning back,
that's true.
Like,
That's true.
and that's something that's interesting because, like, in the philosophy group, they were like mentioning the like, technology isn't a thing outside of ourselves; it's something internal, and it's equal to an organ. And this movie like makes that literal with his
Yes.
stomach cavity. And I don't know. What do you
Yeah.
think about that? Is like, because yeah, like, because everything's like it's like the way our phone operates, the way everything we use and connect with, like they're all extensions of our actual physical body in a way.
Yeah, they're like extensions. Yeah, I think that's a good word for it. But
Yeah.
they're not like a new organ. I think that's taken a little far. Cuz
You don't think so? Because like, if you
humans can
think of
still live without it, you know. Humans can okay, maybe it's like it sort of
it's
is like that, but it's not a it's more like an uh I guess how we can live without one of our kidneys, you know. It's
yeah,
not
that's what I was gonna
necessary.
say. Yeah, it's an unnecessary organ, but it is a fundamental organ. Like like
Yeah,
us talking into this mic. This mic is, if it were to be an organ, it'd be,
right.
all the organs used to create our voice. This thing is capturing our voice and then pumping it through whatever airway or signal or internet connection. I don't know. It's crazy, man. Like,
Yeah.
like there's that whole like Elon Musk thing where he's doing the, what is it? Like some chip in the back of your head that
Oh, yeah.
something like that. I
Neural
think
link
that
or whatever.
is, yeah, that is the next step, is when, like, instead of having a phone, I can just think, oh, I need to tell David, what time we're recording today. And I can think that thought, send you that exact thought. You receive that thought and hear my voice in your head say, oh, hey, when are we going to record Cineverm today? And then you could be like, oh, we could do it at 6 o'clock. I think that's when we are fully like transhuman. I have like a little short story written about like a
Yeah.
future where that's the case. And then I love how every time someone writes about the future, it's like it's going to be so insane and everything's going to be different and flying cars, and it's like this huge thing. But just from what I think our experience is currently, like, we can do shit that would be so sci-fi to even Cronenberg in the 80s, like
Yeah.
the kinds of shit we can do on the internet, online, with our devices, it's insanity. And but but the thing that's always true with every like technological innovation is it's always fucking boring. Like, we're still fucking bored all the fucking time. So like, even in
Yeah.
the future where I can like mentally link to you, people are still gonna have this like boredom and this like addiction to like, get, whatever content or whatever stuff. But I don't
I
know.
mean,
So
the movie touches on that too. Like his whole attitude at the beginning is just like he's bored with all this. What is the
yeah,
next thing?
it's
Like,
too
what is the more
soft.
extreme
Yeah.
thing? And when he sees it, it's something that's very, obviously it's like just people getting killed. He like doesn't
Hmm.
bat an eye. He's ready for it. So
Yeah.
it does touch on that. Yeah. Like
And I
we're
think,
always gonna want the next stimulation. Yeah.
yeah. And then once it's internalized in our like literal brain, like where it's as immediate and instant as a thought can be, like you could be like laying in bed and like, I guess I'll watch
Yeah.
Stranger Things. And then you watch it, like you close your eyes and watch it. Like
Yeah.
that's gonna be oh my god, it's gonna be so stupid. Like,
You know
I
what?
don't know.
Yeah, I feel like the real scary thing about that, like the downside, is that, and I already feel it happening to me, is that it will if that ever happens, it'll completely wipe out our imagination. Because I
Yeah.
think our imagination is so, yeah, I find it myself is the times that I'm most watching a bunch of media and internet and spending a lot of time on screens, like my
Yeah.
imagination just plummets. Like I have less dreams because that's
Hmm.
something that's a good barometer for me, is like if I'm not remembering my dreams every night, which I know you've said like you don't normally remember your dreams, but
Yeah.
Definitely for me, like it annoys me when I don't remember my dreams. And usually it's when during the daytime I'm like overstimulating myself with stuff. And I think it really affects the brain and our ability to use our imagination, which is really sad because then we all just become consumers,
Oh my God. Yeah.
and then there's just like a small class of people that are the creators, I guess. But
Or
most of
the,
us have just like lost our ability to even use our imaginations. So
yeah.
I don't
Dude,
know.
it's at that point. It's in like look at kids, dude. Like when you go to like a grocery store or any place in public,
Yeah.
like every kid has like a tablet like in their
Oh yeah.
face.
Yep.
And then like I hear like parents and stuff and like I mean people in my family, like my sister specifically has always been that type to just give their kid a phone or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I'm just like I don't like that can't be good. Like that can,
No.
like me as an adult, I I think it manipulates me to a point to where I'm fucking irrational. Like what is a
Yeah.
developing brain? Like and that's just so horrifying. And then it's also just how you're saying like imagination. It's also like what is it doing like serotonin wise? What is it doing like the instant gratification? What is it doing
Yep.
to like the logic brain? Like if you're not problem solving, like as a kid, I remember not having TV and I did play video games, but I think that was actually a benefit because I was playing games I didn't understand. Like I was playing
Yeah.
like Final Fantasy VII as like an 8-year old who does it like who doesn't even understand like any of the gameplay, and I'm like trying to like figure out stats and like how to level up my character and stuff. But like nowadays, it's even like mobile phone games are just literally serotonin loops. It's like
Yeah.
tap
Yeah.
this button really fast and you get 5 billion points and then you get 5 billion credits and then you pay $5 for 10 billion credits. And it's like, oh, dude, it's just like lottery. Like everything is just lottery in every
Mm-hmm.
single application.
Oh yeah.
Ugh,
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
So
I
imagine
don't know.
that. Imagine the next level is in your brain and it's just
Nah.
instant.
I think humans are. I don't think that's gonna. I personally, I don't think it's gonna happen anytime soon. I don't think people are gonna be willing to. I think
I
that's our
think it will.
people's limit is putting things inside their body.
Dude,
I think people are
no.
fine as long as they can set down their phone when
Dude,
they want to. Even though that even though we are so attached to it, but we still can think like, well, it's separate from me. You know.
no. No, it's
Uh,
gonna happen, dude. It's
all
gonna.
right.
I, I think it's gonna happen in our lifetime. So
We'll
we'll
see.
we'll record a Cineverm episode in like 30
Sure.
years, and we're
900,
like,
9,999. Yeah.
oh
We'll
my
be like,
god,
all right, listen back to
because
this one.
dude, I was thinking about that with like I remember the Xbox 360 had this device called the Kinect, and I
Yeah.
remember it was such a huge controversy of people like, well, people can hack into it and like look at your living room. That's disgusting
Uh
because it had a camera and it was always on.
yeah.
And then I
Yeah.
remember like that like it became such a huge controversial thing that Xbox like had to scrap it. They like famously like had a horrible launch with the Xbox One because it was bundled with it, all because it was a camera in the living room. Like it was just such a
Hmm.
disgusting idea to the American people. And now there's like Google stupid Nest, like Facebook has one, like Portal or whatever the fuck. Like I like even like I deliver mail, every single house has like sometimes two like little doorbells with cameras on it. Like
Yeah.
everything, like everywhere there's cameras everywhere and everything. So like I don't know. I think people will get used to it. Like I think it's going to happen really slowly, and I think when it will like officially happen is when Apple does it, because whenever Apple does it, then it's mainstream. So they'll have like, oh well, you're just gonna stick this little thing in your butt. It's not that big of a deal, like it'll be, or this will just go in your like under your tongue or whatever,
Uh-huh.
or
I remember the Google Lens. People really freaked out about that when they tried
yeah.
to do that.
And
I
now
don't know.
like I think Apple's like developing some sort of like little AR headset, and I swear to you, as soon as that comes out, it's gonna be the biggest thing ever. It's gonna be like you see people with like AirPods, and I remember when those first got announced, people were like, "These look stupid," or even the Apple Watch. Like, who would want a watch? Who would want a phone on their wrist? And I even remember like when Bluetooth was first coming out, people were like, well, what is that doing to your like brain and like all this digital airwaves and like that can't be good, the connections or whatever. I mean, there's even
Yeah.
still people talking about that with like Wi-Fi and like every time we get like a new innovation of like signal technology, everyone's like, wait, what is this doing? And I mean, it probably is doing some fucking fucked up shit to us. Like, there's no way, like, everything has a negative and a positive reaction. Like, that's how literally the universe works is, there's action reaction. So there's no way these signals that are floating all around us invisibly are not causing some sort of distortion. Like, because everything reacts and
Yeah.
acts. I don't know.
True. Oh, you never know. We'll see what happens with all of that. Yeah, it is kind of scary.
It's gonna happen, and it's gonna suck. Oh my god! But yeah, this movie would make a brilliant remake. I'm very excited for Crimes of the Future. Like, I am so excited after
Yes.
seeing this. Like, I hope he has a bigger budget, and I'm also curious, like, what he does in modern times. Like, I don't think there's many directors that do horror with this like body aesthetic,
Hmm.
that do it as well as what was done in this film. So it's like, and then it's also like a master returning because he hasn't made a movie in like so long.
In a
I can't.
while. Yep.
Yeah, so I'm very excited to see that.
Yes, me too. I'm super interested to see what he does with similar concepts. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So was there any other major points you wanted to talk about? I think
I don't
I
think
was,
so.
I was looking at your notes
Probably
here.
nothing super important.
Yeah, yeah.
um, yeah, I think we covered all the major things.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see. I'm just looking at your thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, there was something. Oh, I really like this quote. I don't know if we brought it up, but the eye is the window to the soul. I like that
Yeah,
quote.
yeah.
That.
Mixed
Yeah.
with the TV is the retina of the mind's eye. That's a, yeah.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
combine those two quotes, it's like scary. Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah. Oh, I
gosh.
was gonna ask. I mean, does this make you besides the like? Does this make you want to watch any other Cronenberg movies in the future? Like,
Yeah.
um,
No, I am fully game, and this is like kind of early in his career is what I'm looking at, right? Like this
yeah.
is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So this is like his fourth or fifth film, major film. But yeah, I really want to watch The Fly for some reason. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if that has some more emotionality in
Probably.
it.
Yeah. It does. Yeah. It is more. It's more of like a Hollywood type kind of movie. I don't know. When I think of that, it has the body horror, but it also has. It feels more like a Hollywoodish kind of movie. So
Yeah,
maybe it balances that better, and maybe you would like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I would be game
Dead
to watch.
Ringers is a really good one too. I don't know why that one keeps coming to my head. Dead Ringers, but it does. It has
Ooh,
very minimal body horror, but I don't know why. Like it's more character focused, and I
okay.
really liked it. Uh,
Jeremy Irons. Wow.
yeah, Jeremy Irons is really good. He plays like like twins, but they do the
Oh,
whatever. He's two different people in the same scene, kind of thing,
yeah.
which is cool. Um, Scanners is really similar to this, but it's not as deep. It's not deep at all. It's just people's heads exploding, basically. Um, but it's worth watching. I really want to
Wow.
see Existence, which I've never seen, but I realize that I really need to see that because I'll probably watch it before I watch Crimes of the Future. Because
Ooh.
from what I've seen of it, it has the body horror stuff and the weird like body manipulation, like people purposefully manipulating their bodies to
Wow.
enhance them. So I'm definitely going to check that out before we watch Crimes of the Future.
Yeah, man. If
Yeah,
you think it's something worthy to talk about, we could totally do an extra. Oh, and History
yeah.
of Violence. That looks interesting. That looks just like a
Oh,
typical drama.
yeah. I didn't like it. I
It was
really did not like that movie. I don't know why. It just
oh,
feels weird. I don't know what
out
it
of
is
place.
because yeah, well, like because the actor God, what's that guy's name? Viggo Mortensen. Like
Yeah,
he's a great actor, and Ed Harris is in it. I love Ed Harris. So
yeah.
everything's good. Like the actors are really great, and obviously the director's good. But man, it's an awkward movie. I don't know what it is about that movie. It's just
Huh.
very awkward and weird. And it just feels very
Interesting.
dated. It just feels like a 90s movie. I don't know what it is.
Whoa. And what about
Um,
Cosmopolis with our boy Robbie
yeah,
Katz?
I've never tried that one because it got such horrible reviews. It's like one of his
Yeah.
worst reviewed movies. I saw Maps to the Stars and did not like it. That was another one of he went through a
Oh
phase
man.
where he was just making like not body horror but just sort of drama
Yeah.
stuff that had weird like about rich people or like just kind of out of touch people.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's his thing. I'm glad that he's returning to what he knows
Well,
best.
what's interesting with him is his son. Didn't his son? Is it? Yeah, Brandon
Yeah.
Cronenberg.
Yeah.
Supposedly Possessor. Did you watch that? I heard that was like
Yes.
really
That
good.
was very good. Yep.
Wow.
That is like feels like a higher. Yeah, it's kind of like it's way better than in my opinion than a lot of the ones that we just mentioned. Like
Wow.
it's better than the lesser David Cronenberg movies. So
Wow.
a lot of people joking it's like yeah, like his son made a good movie that you know his dad had to step in and he's going to have to show him how it's done with this new one. So we'll
That
see.
that that would be fun to do crimes and then hit his son's work too. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, like compare. Yeah.
Yeah.
Too many movies.
Yep.
Not
Yep.
enough time,
Yep.
man.
All right. Well, I think that's going to conclude our spoiler discussion and whole review for Videodrome. I think the next one we're going to watch on your list will be Eraserhead. So that's going to be
Yeah.
very exciting.
Hmm.
But thanks everyone for listening to this episode of Cineverm. We would be grateful and humbled if you could leave us a review or rating with your thoughts or comments on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And if you could share us with your friends or family, as that helps us in our journey to spread the love of cinema. And we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Cineverse.